Hello and welcome to ACTV 20's Health Matters. I'm Dr. Erich Parks and I have a great program for you today because some of you remember when I had Cynthia Johnson on, we talked about some genetic testing and how that could improve your health. So today we're going to increase the information that you have at your disposal to improve your quality of life. And I want to introduce a very special man, and I'm going to tell you a few things about him, but he's going to introduce himself in a moment. Michael Carnevale has been associated with people like Jacques. How many of you out there have heard of him? Well, he has some great stories about that, but more importantly, we're going to talk a little bit about human performance today. Now, for those of you who are the Auburn Endurance Capital athletes, well, there's going to be some really good information for you. But for everybody else, it's about quality of life. And we're going to talk about how performance equals quality of life. So I'd like to welcome Michael and Cynthia, welcome back.
Great, thank you so much.
And so tell us a little bit about your background, Michael. You have a very interesting background, but how did you get into this?
Well, you know, it was in me.
Yeah.
I was born to perform as an athlete, as a young athlete. Sports like baseball and football and exercise and fitness was a big part of my life. And having the opportunity to know people who knew of a man by the name of Jacques, and at a very young age, at 16 years of age, I was introduced to him, literally introduced to him. Very few people have had the chance to actually sit in a training class and listen to generally the father of fitness in America. And listened, learned, and I was sold. And that opportunity led me to the fitness industry, the wellness industry, and you know every aspect of it. But today I know we're speaking about performance. The fitness industry was just becoming modern as we know it today in the 80s. And at 16 years of age, I was thrusted into the field, and Jacques and the company that he ran trusted a young man, because as Jacques would say to young people, that's where I began. And gave me the opportunity to learn the fitness industry, become part of the fitness industry, and that just progressed my career. And there's so many things to talk about today, but that was the genesis. But what's most interesting is everything Jacques said to me then is more true today for athletes and coaches, and I'm just blessed to know so many of the best athletes in the world, from Olympians to champions, and we all have the same commonality. We're all looking for good information to make good choices and to guarantee that these choices will at least keep us safe from injury and health.
Sure. And I can recall so many things from Jacques Lalanne's early days that were prophetic. The guy was way ahead of his time. He was telling us things about fitness that we're now learning to be true, but we have a much deeper understanding of why. And I think that's one of the things that you really bring to the table, is that your knowledge of genetics. Tell us a little bit more about that, but that's what gets us into the testing that can help with people's performance.
Absolutely. You know, you start off with fitness, and yes, we still are big fitness beings in America today. And as you said early on with the show, Auburn is truly a mecca. It's always known to be, and now more so today. But technology is important. But let's start out with the Jacques conversation. So Jacques taught us everything from a step test to circuit training to juicing to nutritional concepts that today are considered new.
Yeah.
We do know they actually are not. It's the new old.
Right.
Old is new again.
Rediscovery.
Rediscovery. We're all in this new genesis of wellness. But that progression took me into the sports industry, training for baseball collegiately, and with the ultimate goal to play professionally, and then taking the opportunity into the fitness industry into the late 80s and 90s. I really needed to understand more. Met with the founder of the Zone Diet in the 90s, said, well, now I understand nutrition must be in front of fitness. Jacques taught that, but he was world-renowned in best-selling books, and we talked about essential fatty acids. We talked about the science of the balanced dietary intake, and I spent a lot of time with Dr. Sears, and a lot of FaceTime, me time, and we were part of the Zone Fit system and programming. And then from that, I was introduced to the human genome doctors, and they were fascinated with my background and my connections with people with the background, and said, hey, what if there's a certain subset of genes that could actually show you how you process nutrition? I said, what if? I need to see this.
Right.
So when they showed it to me, and I'll never forget this, Orlando back in 2006, and I said, you know, we now can understand better why we process certain nutrition, why we, in a sense, detoxify, or why our bodies sort of operate, how we process proteins and the like. And that fascination took me to in excess of over 100,000 people swabbed. literally swabbed people, and people today talk about 23andMe and some of the most amazing Ancestry.com, and they talk about how we can take information. But in '06, I was arguably the Jack LaLanne of DNA.
Right.
And I went out there with the same mindset and the monikers of marketing, but it wasn't about marketing, it was about helping and information.
Right.
And we learned so much. And we learned that DNA is not your destiny. Now that may be a little deflating, but it was actually empowering.
I think many have heard that before, that, you know, DNA is what determines who we are, how long we're going to live, and how we're going to live. And we now know that DNA is changeable. And that very topic really upset the whole industry for, well, the last 15, 20 years. And so the new, well, I say gold standard now is the epigenetics, which tells us how do we change the outcome from our DNA. This says you have a propensity to diabetes. So what do you do to prevent that gene from expressing itself? And like you were saying, the nutrition or diet, whatever, and nutrition before fitness, if you don't feel like going out and exercising, you won't. So if you have your body functioning properly, that's the first step. I agree with that 100%. It makes so much sense.
Logic sometimes is fuzzy.
Yes.
And what I mean by fuzzy logic, and we can talk about fuzzy logic, we can make it a whole health matters show, because we live in fuzzy logic in fitness, in training, in sports, because we understand the rules, but we don't quite understand why one person's body performs a certain way, or in a sense, heals a certain way after exercise and the like. And in wellness, we don't quite understand why, even if you know the gene set, why certain things don't happen. But here's the fact. Jacques LaLanne, I'm going to go out on the record today, Jacques LaLanne was the father of epigenetics without understanding it, because as we both know, very few people know, he was a chiropractor.
Right.
And even though he wasn't quote unquote a practicing chiropractor, he motivated us, and he looked at things from the form of kinesiology and function and balance. Body alignment, right? And in a moment, I'm going to tell you a great story about how that all came to fruition in my career as an educator and a trainer. But what we started to see is that lifestyle, environment, and remember, in 2005, we didn't have a smartphone. So in 2007, we had a smartphone. Now we can't even live our lives without knowing or thinking what would we be without a smartphone or the internet? But applications in science have to have a direction. They have to have a beginning and an end, a purpose. And what we now can do is utilize technology to create some measurements, some basis of measurements to measure our genetic, being our DNA, our genotype, our phenotype, which is ultimately our epigenetics. And now even in fitness and nutrition, we understand somatotype. Now we're getting a better understanding of how body types form from that epigenetic narrative, to really focus on. But when you can get information and you can look at science and you can point nutrition, and in a moment we're going to touch on the energy conversation and how this continuum could now be identified. And obviously as a professional in industry, you know the importance of that.
Correct. And what we have now is a good foundation to start talking about specifically how do we monitor these things, or how do we measure those changes, those genetic codes, and then how do we know how to influence them? Because I think that's been my quest ever since the beginning, and I agree with you. Jacques LaLanne was one of the first people to introduce the fact that you don't have to be who you've been all along. You can change your fitness level. You can change your expression, your energy, and all these things by doing certain things and paying attention to your nutrition. So let's talk a little bit about how is it that now you have gotten into measuring and monitoring those epigenetic changes, and how do those help us know what to do?
Well, it's about three really important questions that I'm going to answer each one of them. Number one, it was always a part of the journey. Henceforth, it was the blank space not filled in. You're blessed with opportunities when you put in the effort and work. So having worked in the fitness industry, and just give you a quick timeline, I work with hundreds of gyms. I had the opportunity of building a fitness franchise. I had the opportunity to learn from the best of the best. I had the opportunity to continually educate myself. Doing the tens of thousands of DNA reports allowed me, from a nutritional standpoint, not a medical DNA, not a pharmacogenomic, and not in any way, shape, or form but nutrition,
Right.
I got to see and hear and feel what was happening to people in the fitness world, in the sports world. And what's exciting is I got to meet, and now I've made long friends and partners with champions, Olympians who've won gold medals, professional athletes who've won championships, and I literally went through their DNA.
Right.
And I started to see that the greatest champions in the world didn't have the best DNA.
Right.
And I said to myself, okay, this explains it. There must be a larger, bigger, greater narrative. And that was where it opened up my mind journey to epigenetics. It's sort of like we have the DNA mapping, but now we're epigenetically mapping.
Right.
Okay? And follow me here. We live in a world of genetics being the basis, right? We'll say the predisposition. And then epigenetics being the current and ever-changing disposition, because disposition changes regularly.
Mm-hmm.
You can be unhappy on one day,
Yeah.
happy the next day. You can be in pain from energy blockage as a professional in industry. After they meet with you, that
Yeah.
have to dissipate. So we know disposition changes. And then environment. I can literally be here with you right now and walk outside and my temperature changed, so now my body is calibrating. And one of the things that most people don't understand when they click a button on the internet, and that they don't quite have the best reception.
Right.
This is how I equate in an analogy to epigenetics.
Right.
It's circling. It's
Oh,
circling.
right.
So all day long, as it's circling, it's really not circling wastefully.
Right.
It's looking. It's looking to find its connection.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's sending out, billions of bits and bytes to connect. And once it connects, we call them modems, so the human body works in the same way. So as we're integrating our daily decisions, it'll start with our first exercise of the day, our first nutritional delivery system, the supplements we choose, the energies that we expend upon thoughts, as simple as prayer, or as simple as how you deal with changes in your personal relationships.
Right.
And as these emotions come in, and this is this giant soup, this amazing mixture. It's called epigenetics.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you're making a change. You're either going in the wrong direction or the right direction. So let's recap. Epigenetics is genetics plus lifestyle plus environments equals epigenetics. So how do we get a handle on this?
Right.
How do we come up with a measurement? Well, I said a few moments ago, a cell phone. A cell phone measures information in many, many ways. We now call them applications.
Right.
And then everything is a push button away. What if, I'd like everyone to think about this, what if we can do that now with nutritional information? And that said, we now have the ability to do so, and I'm going to get into the next two questions you had, but just as a little insight, technology is amazing
Right.
when it's pointed in a direction for change.
So I'm going to recap that because that's really an important concept, is that technology now exists that we can tap into our epigenetics and find out what it is that we need to do to change things, to help us adapt and make our lives better. And so it's not a guesswork. It's not, it worked for 15 people, it'll work for you. This is you. This is how your body responds. This is what you need to do. It's very specific, very
It
individual.
is very specific, and you and I have talked about the human body being a giant adaptogen, right?
Mhm.
And we understand that to be epigenetics, but we have to have a basis. We have to have a measuring resource.
Right.
So let's talk about energy in its human energy management continuum, right? So when you're taking calories, you're taking in energy. Right? Input, output. When you're taking in exercise, you are taking in exercise. You're not pushing out exercise.
Right.
People do have that thought process backwards because you're pulling in these resources for your body to process it biochemically and electrically.
Right.
Parasympathetic, sympathetic, right?
Right.
As you know,
It's part of the nervous system.
all part of the nervous system. And then in turn, this mixture of energy now has a output response, a measurable output response. And now we've been able to tap into frequencies. And I've done these analogies where before an MRI, and as you remember before an MRI, they had to go in and do exploratory surgery or useless x-rays.
Right.
Now they can do an MRI and they can take a magnet, spin around the body and pixelate a video of a specific subsection of the human body.
Right. A computer's actually reading how atoms spin and recreating a picture based on that. So it sounds really, science fiction, but that's what they've been able to do. So
Right.
now we have
The ability to tell the story from a resonance audio, where by taking a spin of information, and this is a non-medical, non-diagnostic, without any prescriptive game plan, but to identify how the body utilizes its input, it's nutrition,
Right.
and its lifestyle narratives, and its output, its emotions, and its reactions, and be able to come up with a conversation created with color and size and width and information on charts to tell you how you're utilizing your resources, vitamins, minerals,
Right.
essential fats, on and on, even how you're holding on to an electronic spectrum, which is becoming something that is truly affecting athletic performance.
How your body's responding to like cell phone towers, electrical lights, those
Correct,
kind of things.
smog. I mean, right now we're under amazing bombardment, but the comfortable point of conversation right now is to know that I've done well in my nutrition. I now know that there are certain food groups and supplements that help to support and or mitigate these reactions, because the body is, like I said a few moments ago, it's constantly looking for the connection.
Right, right.
But if you're giving that information and you're sending it right and it's clear and the energy is aligned, the body will work more efficiently. But we can make the picture, tell the story, and then every 90 days in a cycle, we can help give you another report to identify that. And we've gotten to that point now with technology. That is powerful.
Well, what Michael is introducing here is an incredibly powerful new paradigm. This means a new way of thinking about things, because allopathically, which means when you go to the physician and you get a lab test done or you get an x-ray done, they're looking for pathology, which means something is already wrong with you. If they don't find anything wrong, they say you are fine. Well, we now know that there's a continuum, right? You're healthy here. You don't just all of a sudden die or become unhealthy. There's a continuum. You lose your health along the way. So now we have a way of actually measuring the other side of that question, which traditional medicine never looks at. They don't know how. This is the new paradigm. We want to know, how do we not only extend our lives, but how will we live better? How will we be 75, 80, 85 and be active and functional and lucid? These are all answerable topics, because now we have technology that can look at a snapshot of where our genetics are reacting to our environment, to our lifestyle, and this is a fantastic paradigm. So if you don't understand this, I want you to get more information after this show from the websites, because this will change your life. It will. People, you don't have, this is something in 10 years will be common, but you're hearing it, and I appreciate so much Michael and Cynthia's work of creating these tests programs for people to use to help make themselves better. So can you offer maybe a couple of stories on, I mean, I'm not sure, you must have hundreds like you said.
Well, you know, what's most interesting is to be able to go out there and explain the story, to do the reporting, to spend the minutes, hours, and literally days with from individuals to influential people, and really talk about energy management. You see, we're managing our energy. We're talking about the outside in. We're talking about the physics. You see, there's two parts to the human experience. There's the inside out, which our great medical brothers and sisters are doing a fine, amazing job. One of the amazing nations in the whole world when it comes to it. We sometimes want to beat things up, but in reality, we're in a great place. And then where you work on both sides of the equation as a professional in the chiropractic world, where you look at the inside and the outside, what we're now bringing is an outside in. We're bringing the epigenetic conversation. We're reporting upon your lifestyle changes. So it's not enough just to say, I need to lose weight, and it's a number.
Right.
What you have to say is, I need to change the way in which I manage my weight, and I need to understand how I utilize my energy. I need not to be taking, and I won't mention the name of companies, but I need not to be taking a drink or a substance that is going to affect me in the short term, maybe my adrenals. I need to understand that I can make change in my nutrition or my lifestyle and bring it together. So a couple of some stories is being able to meet with some of the best athletes and training companies in the world, and to just wow them and to say that I can show you what's happening nutritionally on the inside, utilizing an outside narrative, and I can track how your body is utilizing. In a sense, what I'm saying is I can show you more efficiency or inefficiency, not deficiency, which is clearly a medical conversation.
Correct.
And we now can work on that curve, because like you said, it's a curve. It's a time, effort, and space and distance, and how much we put in energy-wise will determine how we utilize nutrition. So from professional athletes to Olympians to some of the best teams in the world. They are now utilizing this as the other side of the pillow just to start laying out that baseline. Can I now know a little more about my environment, how it's operating in my overall fitness goals or health goals?
Well, having worked with elite athletes myself, what I know is the very smallest changes can make a difference in their performance, from being the leader in a field to just in the pack. And these changes, maybe the rest of us wouldn't be a big deal. But a small thing like what time you're going to eat that, or how many carbs you should be eating before. I mean, all these things can affect their performance so much, and I'm sure you found that to be true. And that's what wows them. They're looking for, how do I make good better? And that's...
Well, we call it the edge in sports.
The edge, right.
For the edge. But I'm going to make this very clear. What if, and it's sort of a question I already know the answer to, but what if I could show you another way of looking at your output, being the great athlete in which you are, and to show you how your body, a lot like a dashboard in a car. Technically, we live in this day and age where cars and vehicles are complex, and they have computers, but arguably, there's only 4 areas of a car's dashboard that are important. What's really interesting when they make new cars, they give you a computer, and they give you the same 4 dashboards they gave you in the 50s and the 40s. Gas, oil, speedometer, right? And then you look at electrical and heat. What if we can show people how they utilize their resources and how the body tends to move to utilize resourcing, and you can track change in that 90-day continuum, and you'll be able to introduce energy back through the form of food and nutrition to follow that plan, or if your body is going through ups and downs, get a better understanding of how to balance that, henceforth body alignment. And as you know, once the body is aligned, it does all the magic.
Right. Yeah, it adapts better when it's able to function in a more efficient way.
And it's not a what if.
Yeah, no,
it's here today.
It's here today. So the technology, for those of you who did not see the show with Cynthia last time, was, and we have the machine here, we can talk about it, but it effectively uses live cells from hair follicles, right?
That's correct.
And tell us a little bit about that, just to help bring us back to what the technology is.
When we were measuring energy, and again, energy, non-medical, non-diagnostic, we were measuring energy in a storage, a physical storage cylinder. Henceforth, hair. Hair is a cylinder. It's not flat, it's round.
Right.
And when hair comes from the human body at the nape, specific point in the nape, it's coming out of a 90-day window inside the body. So the smallest hair follicle that is the newest and freshest, a few hair follicles, we're able to pick up the ambient frequencies from the outside and that are affecting the overlay, and from the inside. And we're able to pixelate that frequency in a sound. And it associates with every vitamin, mineral, nutrient, including airborne environmental scenarios, not to be specific, but all laid out in a way in which a person can read it, and then bring them solutions only in nutrition, whole nutrition. Because if I can measure your use of nutrition, I can help you with the measurement. Henceforth, not a caloric, not a diet, not a diagnostic, not a medical, a very simple information resource. I put resource in, I put resource out. This hair stores for approximately about 3 minutes. The hair follicles hold that information, and in a sense we're able to do a little scan, we call it a spectrum coil, and that picks up. I know we talked a few moments ago about a spin. We're able to pick that up and pixelate it into a 34-page report. Pretty amazing.
Well, and remember, Michael talked about MRI, how it picks up energy, which means atoms vibrating in the body at different energies, and reproduces that as a picture of a three-dimensional area of the body. So in this sense, what I hear you saying is that there's an energy pickup that's putting this into, you said an audio,
quantifiable. Those vibrations also are emitting for approximately 3 to 5 minutes when the hair is taken from the human body. So the analogy would be a apple or an orange or a lemon is attached to a tree. The tree is its life source. So picture the human body. And as soon as the tree, you pluck the apple from the tree, it begins to degrade. In a sense, enzymatically and functionally, it begins to die. Well, the human hair works in that sense, but we're able to pick up those frequencies. We'll be able to pixelate those frequencies into charts, into graphs. And those graphs tell us how much the body is looking for or how little. We can tell if there's too much of that energy or too little, and we take the outside and physical narrative, non-diagnostic, but information resource on nutrition.
Right, put everything into
Simple
some
ways.
reasonable and understandable context.
Very
then.
understandable,
Yeah.
and as people do the reporting and they speak with the professionals, they start to see the logic, because over 180, 200 days, 300
Mhm.
days, we do this 4 times a year, people start to have the aha moments.
Right.
And once they have their aha moments, it becomes part of their lifestyle, and that's what's so exciting. And we're seeing this with thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people now throughout the world.
Do you have any personal stories about how it's affected you? Or?
I actually do, and it's deeply personal, non-medical, but deeply
Mhm.
personal. My family just recently, and I personally went through hurricanes in South Florida. I
Right,
live in
oh,
South
yeah.
Florida, and we had damage in our community, and come up on your home after a storm and see 3 feet of water, and to live in a community with no power. And then not even a couple of weeks later, my wife, who was born on the island of Puerto Rico, and my mother-in-law, lots of family members have gone through a lot, and they still are. So we had a lot of emotion. We had no power. It was 100 degrees in our home. We had microbial changes in our community, and my report went from a relatively measurable, consistent report to a complete change. I was able to see emotional change in my report. I was able to see microbial change in my report. I was able to see my detoxification system. And this is all related to my energy and my food, not to mention various other things happening that did not appear on my report ever in years.
Right.
That really got me to understand I'm in a special place, but every athlete goes through this from one competition
sure.
to another, or from one injury to another. It's all about how we utilize energy
Right.
in respect to our nutrition. So immediately, I made a drastic change when I got my power back,
Mhm.
and I started to really work on that calming, relaxing, focused adjustment. I added more nutritionals in my
So it
food
gave
groups
you the information
to
that you
compensate
needed.
that information.
Yeah.
Exactly. But again, no supplements, no diagnostics, just simple nutritional changes with food groups. Exciting, and it's really great to do it with food groups. It's great.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm impressed with, is that this is a program that emphasizes how you can change your diet, your food choices, and so forth, rather than just saying, here's 16 supplements you should be taking, because that's so easy, but it is really sometimes not very efficient, and it's expensive. We eat anyway, so helping people in that way makes a lot more sense to me. And I've always encouraged people to look at the foods that they eat. Food is our medicine, that's how we should be looking at food, not just something to fill us up. So I'm excited because I know that there's a lot more information coming. I would like to have our audience know how to get in touch with this information or keep abreast of what's all going on. So can you help us out with that?
Sure. To make it simple and make it easy to gain information and knowledge, you can simply go to bodyalign, BODYALIGN.com, and all the information you need is there on our report, on our information about our technology, and what we utilize to really help the body align. We work with some amazing people like OptimumWellness.life, again, OptimumWellness.life here in the Auburn area, Cynthia Johnson, and as the president of Bodyalign and as the representative of this technology, what you will find at bodyalign.com is answers to some questions, information that'll make really big changes in the way you look at nutrition, and we're here as professionals to answer any additional questions. Again, BODYALIGN.com.
Thank you very much, and again, I appreciate all the work that you've done. I appreciate what I know will be fantastic information coming in the future, and I have to say to our audience, welcome to the new paradigm. I hope it helps you. Till next time.